Do you remember the first time you saw a tank rumbling past? The ground trembling beneath your feet, the deafening roar echoing in your chest, and that feeling that you were staring at something not of this world. Now imagine machines, even more absurd vehicles so massive, so heavy, so brutally overpowered, they seem to have been built by someone who ignored the laws of physics entirely. Some of these beasts are so extreme, they almost feel like a bad joke. But they were very real. Have you ever wondered how far humanity has gone in its obsession with power and domination? Or more importantly, how far it should have gone? Because what you're about to see today isn't just a list of military vehicles. These are mechanical nightmares, monstrous creations that defy logic with their impossible dimensions, deafening sounds, and terrifying purposes. This is pure engineering madness. So buckle up, because the last machine on this list is so outrageous, it never even made it to the battlefield. And once you see it, you'll understand why it still haunts engineers to this day. Landkreuzer P-1000 Ratte, Nazi Germany, proposed, World War II. If insanity had a blueprint, it would be the Landkreuzer P-1000 Ratte. This wasn't a tank, it was a battleship on tracks, a monstrous concept so far beyond logistics, engineering, and common sense that its very existence reads like a fever dream. Proposed by Nazi planners during World War II, the Ratte imagined a land vehicle 35 meters long, 14 meters wide, nearly 12 meters tall, and tipping the scales at a mind-boggling 1,000 tons heavier than a fully loaded freight locomotive. Its intended armament was naval in scale, twin battleship turrets mounting 280 mm guns, dozens of secondary cannons, anti-air batteries, and machine gun nests, essentially a mobile coastal battery that could pulverize anything in its path. Propulsion was to come from submarine diesel engines, 2 of them, producing a combined 8,000–10,000 horsepower on paper, promising a theoretical top speed of about 40 km/h if the ground, roads, and bridges could even bear its weight. To move, it would have needed dozens of axles and double-wide tracks, and even then the ground pressure would have shredded any standard road. No bridge could carry it, no rail line could ferry it. The Ratte wasn't merely impractical, it was strategically absurd, a monument to wartime megalomania. Thankfully, by 1943 German engineers and commanders recognized it as unbuildable in wartime conditions and the project was cancelled. What remains are sketches, blueprints, and a chilling reminder of how unchecked ambition can produce concepts that defy reality. Today the Ratte survives as legend, a terrifying what if that keeps turning up in games, films, and alternate history fantasies as the ultimate symbol of engineering unmoored from reason. Akron KM Caspian Sea Monster 1966, Soviet Union. This is where engineering and madness meet. The KM Ekranoplan, infamously nicknamed the Caspian Sea Monster, was one of the most bizarre and ambitious machines ever built. Spotted by baffled American satellites in the 1960s, it looked like a flying building 92 meters long, weighing over 500 tons, yet gliding just a few meters above the sea. Not a plane. Not a ship. Something entirely in between. It operated using ground effect, trapping air beneath its wings to skim across the water at 500 km/h. Think of it as a jet-powered sea missile, too low for radar to detect, too fast for warships to stop. Powered by 10 turbojet engines, it could carry troops, armored vehicles, or even nuclear payloads, making it one of the most terrifying strategic weapons concepts ever devised. To Western analysts, it was a complete mystery. When first spotted, U.S. intelligence labeled it Caspian Monster because no one knew what they were looking at: a plane, a ship, a weapon. The Soviets kept it top secret, operating test missions across the Caspian Sea under heavy security. Its silhouette-wide body, stubby wings, and a hull like a flying battleship looked straight out of science fiction. But despite its brilliance, it was plagued by complexity and danger. One crash in the 1980s ended the entire project. Today, the Ekranoplan remains a legend, proof that Soviet engineering dared to defy logic itself. Even now, military historians debate what might have happened if a full fleet of these low-flying giants had ever taken to the seas. And if you thought this was the peak of impossible machines, stay tuned. Because next comes something even more absurd, a tank-ship hybrid, nearly 1,000 tons of steel, built to redefine warfare itself. Kirov class battlecruiser 1980s, Soviet Union. Imagine a warship so vast and so heavily armed it feels like a floating battleground. That's the Kirov class. Built in the late Cold War era, these nuclear-powered battlecruisers are more than ships, they're seaborne fortresses with enough punch to make entire task forces think twice. Stretching well over 250 meters, each Kirov carries a crew of 700 plus, lives like a self-contained city, and bristles with hundreds of missiles, anti-air, anti-ship, and long-range cruise systems backed up by guns, torpedo launchers, and layered air defenses. At their heart sit two nuclear reactors driving powerful turbines, giving them the endurance to sail for months without refueling in speeds that approach 50 km/h, astonishing for a vessel of that size. Visually, they dominate the horizon, a massive steel hull, a radar-packed superstructure, missile silos and vertical launch cells spread over the deck, a true demonstration of naval overmatch. Today only one remains active, Pyotr Veliky, Peter the Great, and its presence near international waters still triggers intense scrutiny from NATO fleets. Analysts argue a single Kirov, using smart tactics and its layered arsenal, could decimate a formation of destroyers and frigates, and that's without ever unleashing its full firepower. If the idea of a ship that massive already feels like it should be outlawed, brace yourself. What comes next blends sea and sky, a hybrid that schemes meters above the water, carrying payloads the size of cargo planes. Now that's a concept that truly flirts with the forbidden. Mi-26 1977, Soviet Union. The largest military helicopter ever built and the only one on the planet capable of lifting over 20 tons of cargo as if it were nothing. This is the Mi-26, a true flying colossus born from Soviet engineering ambition in 1977. With a main rotor stretching 32 meters across and a body length of 40 meters, it's less of a helicopter and more of an airborne giant. Its appearance alone is breathtaking: a dual cockpit, 8 enormous rotor blades, and reinforced landing gear built to support impossible loads. But what really sets it apart is its power, 2 massive turbine engines producing a combined output of over 11,000 horsepower. That's right, 11,000 horses working in sync to push this titan through the sky. With that strength, the Mi-26 can airlift tanks, armored vehicles, shipping containers, communication towers, and even small aircraft with astonishing ease. Originally, it was designed to supply remote Soviet bases unreachable by trucks or trains. Yet its versatility soon turned it into something far more legendary. The Mi-26 became a global workhorse, used for rescue missions, heavy lift construction, disaster relief, and firefighting operations. Perhaps most famously, it played a heroic role during the Chernobyl disaster, hauling away radioactive debris from the reactor site when no other machine could survive the radiation exposure. When this monster takes off, the sound is indescribable: part thunderstorm, part hurricane, part industrial explosion. Its rotor wash is so powerful it can uproot trees or flip cars nearby. That's why flying it near populated areas is practically forbidden. And if you think that's exaggerated, there's real footage of a Mi-26 airlifting another crashed helicopter straight out of the mountains of Afghanistan. Yes, a helicopter rescuing another helicopter midair. The Mi-26 remains unmatched, even decades later. It's not just a flying machine, it's a symbol of brute force and engineering dominance. But if you think this was as wild as it gets, think again. What comes next doesn't soar through the air or crawl on the ground. It schemes the sea at jet speed, and it's bigger than most buildings. Vityaz DT-30PM, modern-day Russia. Now we've reached the first fully articulated vehicle on this list, and this isn't your average off-road machine. This is a tracked war train, built to go where no truck, tank, or even helicopter dares to venture. Meet the Vityaz DT-30PM, a Russian-engineered masterpiece designed specifically for the most brutal environments on Earth, from the frozen wilderness of Siberia to Arctic military zones and deep swamp combat fields where normal vehicles simply sink. Stretching over 10.5 meters long, standing more than 3 meters tall, and wide enough to make most tanks look slim, the Vityaz is split into two massive modules connected by a hydraulic articulation system. This allows it to twist, flex, and move like a mechanical serpent, keeping perfect balance even on uneven, icy terrain. Under its armor sits a V12 diesel engine pushing around 750 horsepower, paired with a heavy-duty automatic transmission. But instead of wheels, it rides on quad rubber tracks that evenly distribute its enormous weight, letting it float over snow, mud, or broken ice as if it were nothing. Watching it move feels surreal, like a mobile fortress gliding over the Arctic. The front module houses up to 4 soldiers or operators, while the rear unit can carry troops, cargo, or even mounted weapon systems. Its torsion bar suspension and advanced track control let it climb steep hills, cross frozen rivers, and plow through shattered ice fields with astonishing stability, all while maintaining speed and precision. But what truly makes the DT-30PM insane and arguably too capable is its resilience. This monster can operate in temperatures below 50 C, performing as if it were in mild weather. That reliability has made it the cornerstone of Russian Arctic logistics and defense operations, including several classified missions. There's even a chilling report of a Vityaz being used to transport a portable nuclear reactor across the tundra, covering hundreds of kilometers without a single breakdown. Yes, that really happened. When it comes to extreme mobility, the Vityaz DT-30PM has no rival. No Western vehicle even comes close to its performance in sub-zero or swampy terrain. But if you think a 2-module track tractor is overkill, wait until you see what's next: a military helicopter so massive it can lift tanks clean off the ground. Maz 537, 1960s, Soviet Union. If you thought the Oshkosh M1070 was already massive, buckle up, because this next monster is even wider, tougher, and built for something far more terrifying: transporting nuclear missiles on wheels. The Maz 537 was a Soviet military tractor designed during the height of the Cold War, with one goal: to move enormous strategic weapons like intercontinental missiles, heavy tanks, and mobile launch platforms across the frozen battlefields of Eastern Europe. At nearly 9 meters long and 3 meters tall, the Maz 537 looks less like a truck and more like a rolling fortress. Its design radiates raw intimidation: a flat armored front, a bulky cab, massive tires, or tank-like treads depending on the variant, and a rear platform built to carry colossal loads. Powering this beast is a 38-liter V12 diesel engine delivering over 500 horsepower, capable of towing more than 50 tons through snow, mud, or ice without hesitation. The truck's 8-wheel drive system with automatic transmission gave it constant traction and smooth control, while its reinforced suspension absorbed the crushing weight of mobile missile systems. And incredibly, despite its bulk, the Maz 537 could hit speeds of over 60 km/h, a staggering feat for a vehicle of its size. But here's the chilling truth: the Maz 537 made it too easy to transport nuclear weapons. It turned the delivery of destruction into something disturbingly routine, efficient, and quiet. This machine gave the Soviet Union a terrifying advantage: nuclear mobility. There's even a famous account of a convoy of Maz trucks carrying ballistic missiles across a border at night, sparking alerts in multiple intelligence agencies across the world. The twist? It wasn't an attack, just a training exercise. Today, the Maz 537's legacy lives on. Many have been repurposed for heavy-duty civilian transport, while others sit in private collections or even star in Russian music videos, their immense silhouette symbolizing Soviet power and endurance. But if you think this was the peak of Soviet engineering, think again, because what came next was even more insane: a 2-module tracked vehicle so huge it could rival a freight train. Oshkosh M1070H, 1992, United States. So what do you do when your tanks are too massive to move? Simple: you build a truck even bigger to carry them. That's exactly what the United States did with the Oshkosh M1070H, a 10-meter-long mechanical beast engineered to haul tanks like the M1 Abrams with ease. Built in the early 1990s by the Oshkosh Corporation, this 8-wheel-drive Colossus was created to transport the heaviest military vehicles across deserts, mud, and battlefields around the world. When the M1070 roars to life, the sound alone can make the ground vibrate. A Caterpillar V12 engine unleashing around 500 horsepower, powerful enough to pull over 70 tons through nearly any terrain. The cab sits high and heavily armored, designed to protect its crew from small arms fire and landmines. Step inside, and it feels less like a truck and more like a spaceship. An array of levers, panels, and control systems built for commanding titanic loads. The suspension uses massive coil springs and hydraulic dampers, allowing it to glide over obstacles while towing unimaginable weight. Its all-wheel drive system with lockable differentials gives it unshakable traction, even when fully loaded. Behind it, the detachable trailer looks like another machine entirely built to carry tanks weighing up to 70 tons with perfect balance and stability. And the M1070's legacy doesn't stop on the battlefield. Decommissioned units have been repurposed for civilian heavy transport, moving turbines, industrial generators, and oversized cargo. Some wealthy collectors even own them as showpieces at giant vehicle exhibitions. Fun fact: a modified M1070 was featured in Hollywood action films, hauling nuclear cargo in explosive chase scenes, and yes, that wasn't CGI. It was the real machine in action. Enjoying this journey through the most outrageous military machines ever built? Then hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned, because next up is a Soviet-built Colossus so massive it could carry tanks, missiles, and even redefine the meaning of destruction itself. ZL-167, 1962 Soviet Union. Picture an off-road truck, now imagine it on an entirely different scale. Built in the early 1960s by the Soviet Union, the ZL-167 was one of the most daring and extreme experimental vehicles ever made. Over 8.5 meters long, nearly 4 meters tall, equipped with 6 enormous wheels, and powered by 2 massive engines, yes, 2. Designed to conquer the frozen wilderness of Siberia, it was meant to reach places where no ordinary vehicle could go. But what engineers created looked more like something torn from a post-apocalyptic movie than a real truck. Its mission was ambitious: to explore the harshest regions of the Soviet frontier, covered in deep snow, mud, and total isolation. To make that possible, engineers equipped it with 2 5-liter V8 engines, one on each side, producing a combined 350 horsepower. Each engine powered 3 wheels, giving the ZIL unmatched traction and control. The design was unforgettable: a long, pointed hood, a raised cabin with triple windshields, and tires nearly 2 meters in diameter. When both engines roared together, it sounded like a monster awakening beneath the ice. Once it started moving, nothing could stand in its way. It crushed obstacles as if they were made of paper. With a manual transmission, reinforced suspension, and high-flotation tires built to glide across snow, the ZL-167 could move through terrain that stopped every other machine. It was so wide, it couldn't even fit on existing roads. It had to make its own. Only one prototype was ever completed. Despite performing impressively in tests, its complexity and high maintenance costs doomed it to remain an experiment. Today, that single ZL-167 survives in a Russian museum, a frozen relic of Soviet engineering ambition. Legends say that during one expedition, it broke through the ice of a frozen river, yet somehow powered through, climbing out as if nothing had happened. And if you think one truck like this was extreme, wait until you see what engineers built next: a machine designed not just to explore the Earth, but to carry entire tanks. T-28 Superheavy Tank, 1945, United States. The end of World War II unleashed a wave of military experiments, but few captured as much awe as the T-28 Superheavy Tank, an American steel giant built in 1945 with one purpose: to be indestructible. Created by the U.S. Army to crush through the most fortified German defenses, its mission was simple: if a regular tank couldn't break through, build one that could roll over everything in its path. The result was a 95-ton fortress on tracks over 6 meters long, nearly 4 meters wide, and armored up to 30 centimeters thick. A machine so massive it looked like something from a science fiction film. Powered by a V12 gasoline engine, the T-28 crawled forward at just 13 km/h, but that slow pace came with unstoppable force. It could survive almost any weapon of its time. The ground would tremble as it moved a moving wall of iron. Though it never saw combat, because the war ended before its debut, its sheer presence left soldiers stunned. Even transporting it was a challenge. The outer treads had to be removed and shipped separately by train. Today, one of the only surviving T-28s rests at Fort Moore, USA, where it still commands silence from anyone who stands before it. Panzer VIII Maus, Germany. But if that sounds extreme, the next machine makes it look small. Enter the Panzer VIII Maus, Germany, 1944, still the heaviest tank ever built. This 188-ton monster was born from Hitler's obsession with creating an invincible vehicle that could dominate the battlefield by presence alone. Nearly 10 meters long and over 3 meters tall, the Maus looked more like a moving fortress than a tank. Its V12 gasoline engine pushed out more than 1,000 horsepower, but the weight held it to a mere 20 km/h. With 35 centimeters of armor on the front turret and dual cannons, a 128 mm and a 75 mm, it was practically immune to Allied fire. But it was too big to be practical. It couldn't cross bridges, often sank in soft ground, and was impossible to transport. Even Germany struggled to move it between factories and test sites. Only 2 prototypes were ever completed, and neither saw combat. One still survives at the Kubinka Tank Museum in Russia, a chilling reminder of how far ambition can stretch the limits of engineering. Rumor has it that during one test, the Maus got stuck for days because there simply wasn't a single machine strong enough to tow it free. Think the T-28 was big? The Maus made it look like a toy. But stay tuned, what comes next isn't a tank at all. It's a truck, one so massive, so absurdly powerful, it makes even these battlefield giants look tame. So, can you believe the size of these machines? Today, we've witnessed a parade of military giants that look like they rolled straight out of a parallel universe, from tanks so massive no bridge could hold them, to helicopters that lift other helicopters, and warships powered by nuclear reactors the size of floating cities. But beyond the engineering, these machines reveal something deeper: how far human ambition will go in the pursuit of power. Even when it means bending physics, breaking logic, or challenging the limits of reality itself. Because in the end, these aren't just machines. They're metallic monuments to an era where victory mattered more than reason, armored legends that make us ask, how far is too far when it comes to domination? Now it's your turn. Tell me in the comments. Which of these machines blew your mind the most? And which one do you think should have been banned before it ever left the drawing board? If you enjoy exploring the extremes of engineering and history, make sure to hit subscribe and ring the bell, because every week we uncover more unbelievable machines built to conquer war, ice, and the impossible. See you in the next video.